Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is my spoiler change review of Avengers Endgame. If you want a spoiler-free review from me, please check my previous video. Let's not waste time. I can recommend Endgame, because it is amusing and entertaining. This film is rather good, although I admit to preferring Infinity War to Endgame. I think it is a worthy final installment for a long-running series of films. In my spoiler-free review, I said I would talk about some things which bothered me about the film. So this video will focus less on the positive and more on the negative, but my positive thoughts have been shared in the previous video if anyone is interested. So, in my first video, I said there is a plot device in the film which Mauler the Long Man will have a field day on. To explain this, I need to discuss the plot, which is thus. The Avengers at the beginning of the film find Thanos and try to get the Infinity Stones, only to discover he managed to destroy them. Thor decapitates him for this. There is a time jump of 5 years, and we see that the world is still trying to move on from the loss of so many people. Some take the evaporation of their friends and family better than others. Now Ant-Man, who was trapped in the quantum realm at the time Thanos snapped his fingers, comes back to our reality and informs the Avengers that they can use the quantum realm as a gateway into the past. So a plan is hatched to get the Infinity Stones in the past to the present day, and use them to bring back the people killed by Thanos. So most of the film concerns itself with the Avengers going back in time. Now, time travel is enormously difficult to get right in fiction, and arguably, the only story to have accomplished this is The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. And this is because the time traveller in this novella didn't do anything to affect the past or the future. He was only an explorer. The Avengers, on the other hand, are trying to change their future in 2023. But Thanos from 2014 catches wind of what they are attempting, and comes into their timeline to try and steal the stones. The whole thing, if examined, is probably a logical mess, and I'm looking forward to a long video from the aforementioned critic on YouTube. Now, I'll be honest, I cannot give my opinion on time travel, because I've only watched the film once, and this would take a lot of thinking at any rate, and this video would not be a review if I tried assessing this huge aspect of the film. It really needs its own separate video. The time travel aspect did not reduce my enjoyment of the film, however, although it may do so on future viewings. What I really do want to discuss, though, is the girl power moment and one of the scenes involving Thor. The first doesn't make any sense as it turns out, and is obnoxious. It happens during the final battle, which involves Thanos' army versus the forces of Wakanda and the rest of the Avengers. Now, for reasons I don't understand, the Avengers and their army are not focused on killing Thanos, who at this point doesn't have any Infinity Stones. Instead, they are focused on trying to take the Infinity Stones they took from the past back into the past. Now, this might sound quite reasonable, but the time machine, or the quantum device, whichever you prefer, is right in the middle of the ebbing and flowing front line of the battlefield. It would make little sense to charge headfirst to this device with the Infinity Stones, because it would only give Thanos and his many minions a chance to get hold of them, but this is what the Avengers decide to do anyway. So Ant-Man and the Wasp, in minute forms, sneak to the time machine, which is in a small van, and begin turning it on. They do this at their full size, and don't seem to be noticed by any of Thanos' soldiers, which is awfully convenient. Meanwhile, Spider-Man tries to bring the gauntlet with the stones to the van. However, he quickly starts getting overwhelmed by Thanos' soldiers who can see him. Captain Marvel comes to his rescue, and a rather worn-out Spider-Man gives her the gauntlet, but seeing the vast battalions ahead, asks her how she will get through. Then the captain of the entirely female Royal Guard of the Wakandan King steps out of nowhere, and says that Captain Marvel has help. And then all the heroines in the Marvel Cinematic Universe appear right next to Captain Marvel, and then charge into the hordes. Without even considering the political and ideological dimensions of this scene, there are still problems to be concerned with. First, how did everyone get there in the first place? Spider-Man in the film is swinging high and above and deep into the enemy lines to try and get to the time machine, and he was quickly surrounded, so there had to be hundreds of troops in front of him and below him. How did all these heroines get through all those forces in time to stand next to Captain Marvel at the time of Spider-Man's rescue? Second, the Wasp is there, which raises the question, why isn't she with Ant-Man trying to protect the time machine? Why did she abandon her partner, lover, and the important time machine just so that she could go and help Captain Marvel? Third, why is anyone even bothering to help Captain Marvel? She comes flying into the battle and destroys a huge capital spaceship by herself. She doesn't need help, and everyone would know it after seeing her destroy the spaceship. She can fly at the speed of light, for goodness sake. Without going into a tirade, from the ideological angle, it is ham-fisted, and so apparently political that it tears you out of the film and reminds you that you are sitting in a cinema watching a film made by people with certain ideological motives. Not a good move in my estimation, but it is still easy to ignore, and despite how it sounds, the film is not ruined because of it. The next contentious moment for me happens very near the end of the story. It is an exchange between Thor and the Valkyrie from Thor Ragnarok. In the beginning of the film, Thor and the Asgardian refugees set up a town on Earth called New Asgard, of which Thor is king. Unfortunately, after the events of Infinity War, he began wallowing in pity, gained around 300 pounds, became a raging alcoholic, and spent 5 years playing video games with a sentient rock. A bit like Jake Skywalker. But unlike Jake Skywalker, it is actually funny, and when Bruce Banner and Rocket tell him to come and help them with the time travel plot, he agrees. Rian Johnson, please take notes. Anyway, Thor feels some guilt because of his pathetic governance of New Asgard. Rather than step up to the challenge, however, and do it properly, he tells the Valkyrie that New Asgard deserves a king. He then says that he needs to be the man he is, rather than the man he should be, and addresses the Valkyrie as Her Majesty, before boarding Peter Quill's ship to join the Guardians of the Galaxy's crew. Seriously, what on earth? Thor is the rightful king of the Asgardian people. He has made mistakes, but A, this does not remove his right to rule, and B, he is someone who learns from his mistakes, and C, what kind of excuse is this for blatant abolition of personal duty and responsibility? Is this what the Rosso brothers want to encourage? Kings, rulers, and men in positions of authority to stop aspiring to be better men and rulers, and instead go on irresponsible adventures and give their power to random women? I said in my spoiler-free review that this didn't particularly bother me, but the more I think about it, the more it irritates me. What and why, Russos? Anyhow, despite these problems, I can still recommend watching the film as it is very entertaining. I'm not sure, but I may make some videos on the superhero genre and Marvel films in particular, because now they have mostly finished. At this point, the major storylines have been completed, and so I'm of the opinion that Marvel films will slowly begin to peter out. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all have an excellent day.